Walter, I'm ringing the bell. It is my pleasure to welcome back to our fellowship Reverend Dr. Ruth Miller. She's been gone for a month, traveling all over the country. She's got a message today titled, "We Flourish When We Accept and Encourage Each Other." Ruth Miller.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to use the technology, and it will be green. Just accept it. Hi.
Hi.
Let it come up.
Do we need to close that?
I don't think so. It seemed to be fine before the service.
That's the door. Right in the door.
The door's shining on it. I love it. All right. It will be fine.
Oh, yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Kind of.
There it is. Yeah, it's coming up. So.
Yeah, lights out.
No, the lights are not gonna do anything for you. Display settings, that's cool. All right, it's not helping. I had it perfectly set up. I love it. Thank you, JR. So if those of you who don't know him, this is our beloved JR coming in from Yachts. Thank you. That's marvelous. So the theme of the month of June has been about flourishing. And I thought we might also be looking at our 7 principles. So this is my focus for the several months that we're in the middle of it. And in case you didn't know, the 7 principles are printed in the hymnal, and they're in various pieces of literature around the space. These were the principles. The first 6 were adopted when the Unitarians and the Universalists came together back in the 60s. And then the 7th one was added in the 80s when the world woke up to, oh, we have an environment and we're part of it. Right. So I talked about the first one last time I was here, and I'll be talking about the 3rd one today, which is, and there's a preamble, it's we honor and promote. Okay, we honor and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Let's do that together. We honor and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Yeah. There's a kids version. So in the youth program in religious ed, they say that we believe that, which is a very different way of thinking about it. And I thought you all might like to know that. So today it would be, we believe that we should accept each other and keep on learning. So if you want to adopt that, go ahead. I would adapt it. So this is what we're talking about today. And there is, on the UUA site, you can get little things like this that are as wallpaper or whatever in various colors, each principle in a little pad like that.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. All right, so what does it mean to flourish? Oh, look what JR is doing for us. I love it. All right. He's helping us flourish. So, when we flourish, when you feel like you're flourishing, it's kind of relaxed, it's enjoyable, and everything feels well. It's well-being in every aspect of life, right? It's kind of like being in love. That's one of my favorite states of flourishing. But, there's all kinds of other states of flourishing. Just waking up in the morning and go, yes. Or one of those beautiful sunsets. Or we go out to the garden and our favorite whatever is blooming. When I was living in Portland, the peonies would come out just about now, right? This would be the end of May, the beginning of June, the peonies. And this right now, we're on the Rose Parade is what's been going on this weekend, Rose Festival in Portland. And oh yeah, Rose Festival in Portland. And now it's amazing. It's just an amazing experience when you're feeling that flourishing, all the plants and all the whatevers, right? But the other piece of it is kind of where Catherine was going. It's about developing, evolving, becoming more fully who we truly are. And I think that's why that principle is saying and encouraging spiritual growth, right? Because to flourish, we are accepting, we are appreciating, we are enjoying, we are being, and we are becoming more fully who we truly are. So that's why I chose to do these two together today. We have a four-legged flourishing in the back of the room. So in the UUA, there are 3 recommendations or suggestions or structures for flourishing, for accepting one another, and toward spiritual growth. Now, Unitarian Universalists are often very uncomfortable with that word spiritual, less so than they are with the term religious. But we do recognize that there is an aspect of being human that is not just mechanistic. There's something else going on here. It's not just biochemical. There's something else happening here. And what that is evolves. So the first thing that they recommend is congregational support. And when I think about that, the language is, it's meant to be nurtured in a community that is safe and supportive of free expression. I think we feel that here.
Yep.
Yeah? Yeah, I think that's why we keep coming back, right? And one of the gals that came to the class yesterday isn't here this morning, but she said, I came because I wanted to hang out with people who think about things that are a little higher than the rest of the world. Yes, yes. It's safe, and we can express freely. And within a certain kind of constraint, which we call community. We have a covenant that we agree, especially if you become a member, you sign this covenant that says that you agree to be, courteous, to bring issues directly to someone if you have the issues, and together work out a place where you both can be free of that. And forgiveness is an interesting thing because it isn't about, well, you did something wrong, but I forgive you anyway. Which is what a lot of us learned in whatever churches we grew up in or whatever families. Go tell your brother you forgive him. Right? Oh well. No, what we're talking about here is about having it no longer have any energy for us. I no longer have any energy around that. I release it, I'm done with it, let's go ahead with our lives. How does that feel?
Good.
Yeah. That way we're both healthier. Right? So that's a huge part of what they're encouraging at the level of the UUA. But when I think about congregational support, I'm reminded of when I was first learning to build my own garden. I had been gardening in other people's gardens off and on most of my life, but I had my own land and I was planting things. And I discovered something called companion planting. Now, I since learned a lot about a lot of things related to that. But remember, some of you may remember Carrots Love Tomatoes, or is it Tomatoes Love Carrots? A little book that came out. And that's all about accepting one another and flourishing together. Because root crops and juicy crops love each other because the root crops feed the juicy crops and the juicy crops feed the root crops and everyone's happy and everyone flourishes. So a community that has a diversity is one in which everyone can flourish. If everything's the same, then you get what we call monoculture, and that means if there's any issue at all, everybody fails. But when you have the diversity, you have lots of possibilities in responses and a lot of possibilities in mutual nourishment. Companion planting, that's what we do here, right? But then the next piece that the UUA talks about is this thing called broadening the soul. Unitarian Universalists don't spend a lot of time talking about soul because most of us are still recovering from the churches or whatever we grew up in. And their soul was a big thing. But in the Unitarian Universalist idea, it's a little bit broader. So the way one of the ministers, Rob Hardy's, he's at All Souls Unitarian Church in Washington, D.C., so he kind of has to talk about this. He says spiritual growth is not about a vertical ascent to heaven, but about growth in every dimension at once. Spirituality in 3D. Mm-hmm. The UUA says spiritual growth is defined as increasing one's capacity to love, understand, and embrace the complexity and diversity of the world. Back to what Catherine said, if I can be empathetic, I am loving and embracing all that is going on around me. And yesterday, in our group we were talking about how to thrive in the complexity and the diversity of the incredible changes that are going on around us. Increasing our capacity to love, understand, and embrace. Rob Hardy's goes on to say, growth in spirit doesn't measure one's proximity to a God above, but rather the spaciousness of one's own soul, its capacity, its volume, its size. How big is our soul? Well, if we're flourishing and we're in a companion planting situation, then our souls are growing. They can't help but grow. Our capacity to love and understand is expanded in an environment where we accept one another in all our diversity and complexity. Yes? Yes. And then he says, we need souls that can take in the world in all its complexity and diversity, yet still maintain our integrity. Now, integrity is an interesting word, and if any of you ever took Esther, any of the landmark things, you may recall that the first afternoon is spent discovering and exploring that, and I kind of put the kibosh on that one time, because I come from system science, and I raised my hand, and she says, what is integrity? And I said, integrity is when you're whole and complete, and your boundaries are, your edges are pretty clear. And she looked at me, afterwards she came up and said, we've been behaving like a little all day. And I went, what? I'm just sharing. In any case, she wasn't quite happy with someone already having an answer. But integrity is about being whole and complete. It's not about how honest you are. It's about how authentically you are being you. How authentically, those kind of merge. How authentically you are being you in this situation. Are you being fully you? That's integrity. Oh. So I need to be able to understand and love and embrace complexity and diversity while still being me. Well, one way to do that is to realize how complex and diverse we are. 4,000 different species right here, inside the skin. 4,000 different species, quite apart from the human cells, the trillions of cells that are all different forms and shapes, and they're all working together harmoniously. I mean, how complex can we get? And how diverse can we get? So when we look at the world, in a way, we're looking at the outpicturing of the inner complexity. As above, so below, as within, so without. Yeah. If I can embrace complexity in any dimension, I am allowing myself to care about and for this being that I call me. And we flourish when we care for and appreciate and understand all of that. He says, we need souls that can love and be in relationship with all of this complexity. Instead of fight or flight, we need a spiritual posture of embrace. Yeah, embrace. So when something seems too much, when something seems overwhelming, my daughter, the neuropsychologist, says, breathe and be curious. Go into that understanding place and allow the love. Yes. Well, we've got congregational support because we are companion planting. We've got broadening the soul because we're learning to understand and love and embrace the complexity and the diversity of all of it. Where do we get the tools to do all of that? And that is from what we call the 6 spiritual traditions. I think I did. 6 sources of wisdom that the Unitarian Universalist tradition draws on. And the first is my favorite. This is how we feel when we're really present to any moment. Whether it's in the woods, in a sunset, or in this room listening to Jeff's music, or in that wonderful place of silence. The direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and openness to the forces which create and uphold life. I mean, I could spend a whole lifetime just on that one point, right? Wow. Wow. But that's only one of the 6 wisdom sources that we can draw on as we're seeking to broaden our souls and support each other. The second one is the prophets, the words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Where, the immediate thoughts are Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Sojourner Truth, right? And I understand this afternoon we're going to hear from Jane Fonda, who is aiming for the same thing. If you come for that Rise Up and Sing thing at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So the prophetic people, the people who are seeing there is something here that needs to be changed. There's no mystery, really, in the fact that the bulk of the work of the Old Testament is words of prophets who are speaking a higher truth to people who got caught up in the materialist day-to-day stuff and got woven into materialism instead of a life based in spirit and love and appreciation. And there are people who suggest that that word evil, which is live backwards, which is one of my favorite things. Yeah, yeah, it's live backwards. There you have it. Really? I mean, anything that we might call evil is exactly that. It is coming at it from a side that is not promoting life. Yeah. That's all it is. So, we confront the powers and structures that are coming at whatever it is from a side that is not promoting life with justice, compassion, understanding this is the best they can do right now. They honestly think they're doing what they think is good. It may not be what I think is good, but they honestly do. And I have compassion for someone who has been in a world where that looks like good. I have compassion. And when I get through that place of compassion, then I can begin to open my heart to love. Yeah. I come from a living situation. I grew up in a situation where there was a little bit of abuse. And as I was focusing on that as an adult, I realized if I focus on this, I'm going to experience more of it. My kids are too, so I'm not going to do this. I'm not focusing on this. One of my proudest days was the day my younger daughter turned 18 and I had never struck my child. Yeah? Neither one of them. And it was like, yes, we broke the chain. Right? Yeah, they were just coming from a place where what they thought was good was not enhancing life, the abusers. Yeah. And then I began to have compassion for the people who would behave that way because that's how they'd grown up.
Yeah.
It was the only thing they knew. They had come to the end of their rope and they fell back into that. And once I got through that, then I could go, oh, and I know you were loving me. You were loving me the best way you could in that moment. And I love you too. Yeah. That's what we're called to in the words and deeds of the prophetic people all through the history. And if we look at all of the scriptures, whether it's what we call the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, the Talmud, whatever we call it, or whether it's, say, the Quran or any of the others, where there are these prophetic statements, that's exactly what's happening. We're being called to stand there in understanding with love, yes, to transform. Then there is the wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. And again, whether it's the scriptures of the Judeo-Christian tradition, the people of the book, or the scriptures that are much older than that, the Upanishads, the Vedas, or the scriptures that are written in cuneiform, or the scriptures that are carved into rocks in the Southwest US, yes, or all over the world. Those are what inspire all of us to become more fully who we can be. Then we get the Jewish and Christian teachings because most Unitarian Universalists grow out of the Judeo-Christian tradition. In fact, if you go to a Unitarian church in much of the East Coast, you wouldn't be able to tell much difference between it and Presbyterians or Methodists. They're singing some of the same songs, they're saying many of the same words, about the only difference is they're Unitarian, not Trinitarian. There's not three gods in one, there is one. And one is all. Yes. The other piece is Universalist. Universalist says there is no way a loving creator God's Father, source of beingness is ever going to kick anyone out. Everyone, universally, is included, is embraced, is enfolded in the one. That's really the only difference that in many of the Unitarian Universalist fellowships and churches has experienced or expressed in the day. So they draw heavily on the Judeo-Christian materials and traditions to support that way of thinking. And if you're wondering how that could possibly happen, look up the work of Carlton Pierce, a Baptist preacher who was teaching Bible studies and woke up to Universalism. Fascinating man. All right, then we get the humanist teachings, and for some fellowships, that's the only one allowed. And humanist teachings are fabulous. My grandmother, a Methodist missionary to India who came back and became dean of a Congregationalist college, okay, called Jesus the greatest humanist that ever walked the planet. My humanist middle-aged male friends would not agree. But what the 1937 Humanist Declaration said was a humanist accepts and understands that the only power that exists is the power of the brain. The brain. There is no mind beyond brain. There is no spirit outside of brain. There is only what is going on in the brain-body system. And your power lies in developing that and applying that. And the end of life is, when the brain stops, life is over, there is nothing after it. Before the brain has developed, there is not really life. That's the essence of the 1937 Humanist Declaration. There's a lot more to it. And that kind of gets in the way of this other stuff called spiritual, right? So there's this dance in the UUA, always. How can we honor spirit and honor the humanists? And what usually happens is spirit becomes semper fides, esprit de corps, the spirit of working together and accomplishing things together, that kind of spirit. And we develop that by working together and accomplishing things together. So if you're ever in a congregation that tends to be more humanist, that will be the emphasis. If you're ever in one that tends to be more Judeo-Christian, it'll be more the traditional Judeo-Christian idea. I hope that's clear. And we are all of it, because we are a diverse group that is honoring every tradition. And then that gets us to number 6, which includes the earth-centered traditions, which I so appreciate what Sally did today. The way this particular congregation honors the folks that managed this land before the Europeans got here, right? This was not wilderness. This was a carefully managed, supported, deeply appreciated, mutually interactive food system. And the Europeans said, but it's not laid out in straight lines. Must be a wilderness. So we're going to see more and more of the earth go back into that as we go forward. And one of the pieces of work that I do is help people get in touch with that indigenous wisdom, because it's built into the language. Our very language separates us from each other and the planet. English, German, French, any of the Latin-based languages, most of what we call civilized languages. But the indigenous languages, there's one indigenous language where there is no past or future tense. It's all now. All beingness is now. How would we live if we knew, if the world that we experienced was only now? Now, some of you have observed that as people have gone into what we call their dotage, that what we in America call dementia, when people lose that sense of past and future. They're only present now. And my experience is they're very happy. What would happen if we lived 99% in the now? There's so much more we could be doing with all of that. So to accept one another, to flourish together, we have this supportive community we call the congregation. We have these opportunities to develop our capacity to love and understand and move with and for others. And we have these wisdom traditions that we draw on. We invite people to talk about, and we enjoy in our own time and space. And we have a lot of books in the library on these subjects. You can go play. So I wanted to end with something written by another UU minister. It's a little bit of a poem. Are you okay with this?
Absolutely.
All right. The minister is Richard Gilbert, and he calls it In the Holy Quiet. Life is always unfinished business. In the midst of the whirling day, in the hectic rush to be doing, in the frantic pace of life, pause here for a moment. Catch your breath. Relax your body. Loosen your grip on life. Consider that our lives are always unfinished business. Imagine
that the picture of our being is never complete. Allow your life to be a work in progress. Do not hurry to mold the masterpiece. Do not rush to finish the fiction. Do not be impatient to complete the drawing. From beckoning birth to dawning death, we are in process, and always there is more to be. Do not let that incompleteness weigh upon your spirit. Do not despair that imperfection marks your every day. Do not fear, for we are still in the making. Let us instead be grateful that the world is still being created. Let us give thanks that we can be more than we are. Let us celebrate the power of the incomplete. For life is always unfinished business. Thank you very much.